Corruption. We all know it goes on in pretty much every country on Earth. Here is a map of the corruption perception, because of course we can't measure corruption, because if we could measure corruption, there would be no corruption. And so we have to measure perception.
Not the sort of thing you report, is it?
No, just like I've been this corrupt this year. You just file it in your taxes. But what do you notice about this map?
India isn't bright red enough.
Yes.
It is definitely more corrupt than that.
But who are the least corrupt countries and how are they aligned politically?
Well, it's Greenland, isn't it? So,
Well, not Greenland.
right.
As in, which countries are yellow and less corrupt rather than red and angry? If you're listening, this is obviously a bit difficult to follow. But
Well, the non-corrupt ones are basically the Anglosphere
Yes.
and France and Germany and the Nordics as well. So basically, the people who have made corruption sort of official policy.
You've presaged what I was going to say.
Ah.
But I'm glad you agree. Yes. Funnily enough, the people who assess corruption are largely based in this global alliance, and mysteriously enough, they've found their own countries and their own side less corrupt, while as the bad guys, the rest of the world, are corrupt. So you can see here, Australia, New Zealand, not corrupt. Everywhere else, pretty much, other than, say, North America and Western Europe and Scandinavia, are corrupt. Why is this? Have we magically figured out something about human nature whereby we've just mitigated greed? Or is it perhaps that our institutions, as they are currently, have been set up in such a way as to legalise corruption, for want of a better way of putting it? And we're going to be looking at some examples from recent British politics to show you exactly how corruption can manifest. But I'll tell you what is not corrupt: the Lotus Eaters merch store. And what you should be doing is getting yourself a copy of Islander magazine while it's still in print. That's only going to go for another couple of weeks, so make the most of it while you still can. Very good magazine, lots of good people in it. Particularly good person in it is me. But there are also lots of good writers like that Carl Benjamin, you might have heard of him, Raw Egg Nationalist, Dave Green, the distributor, Stefan Molyneux, Morgoth's Review, Dr. Nima Parvini, whoever that is. Obviously, I know who these people are. But also, we have a line of merch. You can get yourself a mug. You can get some T-shirts. Harry loves this T-shirt here in particular. He's already dibs to the office copy of the Islander heavy metal shirt. But also, I like this one. It reminds me of sort of your outdoor wear. That's what I'm going to be going for.
For some reason, it makes me think of GTA Vice City. I don't know why.
It's the sort of the 80s style logo, isn't it? But anyway, you may remember in the UK, and believe me, I'm making this more of a general thing. It's not just UK specific. So if you are from abroad, don't worry. I'm going to make it interesting for you as well. Boris Johnson got a lot of flack for revamping number 11 Downing Street with lots of money, including a £7,000 rug and an expensive trolley. And the really famous thing was he used £840 a roll gold wallpaper. And this is, of course, 11 Downing Street. It's not actually his property. And he used taxpayers' money and I believe some donations as well to do this. This is, of course, number 11 Downing Street, number 10 being the home of, where the Prime Minister is in their workday. And so this is government property. The Prime Minister gets to stay in number 11, but it's not actually their property, once they leave office. And this was a big scandal, and you may remember the Labour Party going on and on and on and on. And I'm not defending the Tories, obviously they're corrupt as well. But they made a big fuss about this, and then a lot of fuss was made about the fact now the Labour Party are in charge. People looked at what people were giving them, and it turns out that the cabinet, the people in charge, have received more than £800,000 in donations and freebies, which sounds great. If you want to send us about £800,000 worth of freebies, I'm more than happy, as long as I don't have to, say or do anything. I will take free stuff.
Sounds a good deal, and this is only just in 2.5 months.
Yes, this is, I think, at the start of 2024.
Okay.
So, that's still good
Labour
going.
cabinet, that's cabinet in general.
The Labour cabinet, as in when they were out of power, yeah. That's also including them. So it's just in the year 2024, the people who are in cabinet received that much in donations. Good job. We're perfectly clear here. So normally, and this is from the body of the Telegraph here, so I'm not making this up, MPs are supposed to declare gifts and donations to the parliamentary authorities within 28 days of receiving them. They are supposed to inform officials of any, and this is a quote, any interests which someone might reasonably consider to influence their actions or words as an MP. Which seems like a lot of donations, really. Gifts are classified as a benefit with a value over £300 provided at a concessionary rate or free of charge, which can include event tickets and gifted clothes and jewellery. So that's a very important distinction. And so,
I mean, there is a simple way of getting around this stuff, which is you just don't accept anything. And like when I was in finance, most of the people, like I would say, like 99% of my colleagues did exactly that. They just simply wouldn't accept anything at all to avoid even the. I mean, I was the 1%. I just like give me everything. I was like up for the dinners, the lunches, like the free gear, whatever. But most people, you can avoid this quite easily just by refusing anything.
that's right, yeah.
How can you refuse an egg Fabergé or the Pink Panther or something? You just can't.
Yes.
Well, it's like Hunter Biden got given a giant diamond once by, I think it was a Chinese businessman. That's a very interesting bribe, isn't it? Just pulling out a huge diamond. Here you are.
To put it to a dancer's belly button or something, I guess.
That's very Huntery, yeah. So there has been a league table. This is since December 2019, but I've done my own league table starting 2024 as well. So I'm going to leave this on screen while I read my league table, but this is, it looks like Sky News based on the format, but this has been doing the rounds, and basically...
That's a lot of money.
But Keir Starmer has been donated to the most since 2019, according to this, followed by Rishi Sunak, then Liz Truss, Rachel Reeves as well, Rebecca Long-Bailey. Lots of top names up there. Unsurprising that these people are being targeted because they're the biggest names, aren't they? They're not going to donate to nobodies because the idea is that they're donating stuff with an expectation of something in return.
I mean, if it was, I mean, the word donate implies that it's just something that you give. But how come you've got like 3 prime ministers right at the top of the list? It's almost as if the people doing the donating thought that they might get something in exchange.
I've heard other people, now I wouldn't allege this personally, saying that these are bribes, that these people are being paid off to do things for private interest groups with money to spare, with the expectation that they'll get something in return, or at least favourable treatment, but I would never allege that. But talking of, morally upstanding people, let's start with David Lammy, who is currently the Foreign Secretary and obviously a very smart gentleman. £150,000 in donations since the start of 2024. So that includes 40,440 from Labour Together, which is a think tank, for the provision of research and writing services. So for the privilege of David Lammy writing some stuff for you, he gets donated more than the average UK salary. He also got donated £2,500 worth of tickets to see Tottenham Hotspur, which is a football team, soccer if you are the wrong side of the Atlantic, in a hospitality box. And following him, because he's number one for 2024 donations, of course being Foreign Secretary, people feel particularly generous towards a Foreign Secretary for whatever reason that might be. I would never allege that it was for special treatment for specific countries. That would be a terrible thing to allege. But Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has received 117,000. This includes Taylor Swift concert tickets at Wembley, valued at 1,160, and that's 4 tickets. And that was gifted to him by the Football Association for whatever reason. Don't know what they've got to do with the Health Secretary, but there we go. He's also received £48,000 in 4 instalments from the OPD Group, which is controlled by Peter Hearn, which is Labour's biggest donor.
Isn't there some sort of football league reform going through at the moment?
It might well be the case, but that would potentially suggest that there may be an incentive for them to do this. In fact, they were one of the groups that donated the most. Funny that there's legislation in the works to affect their industry, isn't it?
Why can't politicians, like racing drivers, they just sew a little badge on for who sponsors them? Can't we have politicians do that?
Well, yeah, there's not enough space on their lapels to do that, I don't think. But also, Wes Streeting accepted $13,000 towards staffing costs. What a generous donation that is. I wish someone would do that for us. from Kevin Craig, who later stood to become a Labour MP in Suffolk Coastal, and actually it turned out that he was forced to stand down after he bet on his own constituency's outcome in the general election being the Conservatives. So he bet against himself, and following this, Streeting did return his donation at least.
I don't actually mind that though, because that's just like hedging. That seems sensible to me.
I've got the wrong person on the panel here, haven't I? He's hedging his bets. Angela Rayner has received 104,000. That's not right. 104,000, sorry. Including 2,230 for clothing from ME plus EM, whatever that is, but it's apparently a British luxury fashion brand. As you can tell, I don't know my women's clothing. Keir Starmer has apparently, since 2000, depending on where you look at it, 107,000. And so I've got a long list here for Keir Starmer because I thought it was the most interesting. So Crown Hawk Properties gave him accommodation for 4 people, 4,500. Swansea City FC gave him 5 tickets with hospitality valued at £800. Kane International UK Services Limited gave him 2 tickets with hospitality to Chelsea versus Arsenal. Teescraft Engineering Limited gave him 4 tickets with hospitality for Newcastle versus Arsenal, valued at £1,000. You get the idea. Lots of football match tickets, but also this carries on for quite some time. There's multiple different football clubs donating him tickets for some reason. Also, Lord Wahid Ali. This is the big one that's been in the news recently because he was made a lord by Tony Blair, and he's mysteriously been donating lots of money in clothing to both Keir Starmer and his wife, valued at £16,200. That's interesting, isn't it? I think over £2,000 was donated just in pairs of glasses for Keir Starmer, so he's clearly in need of some very special glasses for himself. I'm sure all the reading he's doing, he's getting good use out of that. But yes, lots and lots of Football Association and Premier League stuff, like 4 tickets with hospitality, all of that sort of stuff. But also Rachel Reeves as well, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, accepted gifts worth £7,500 of clothes since 2024. Steve Reed, the Environment Secretary, accepted 2 tickets to see Kylie Minogue and her performance at Hyde Park. And Pat McFadden, who's a senior MP, and his wife accepted Bruce Springsteen concert tickets. Another person who's accepted them is Darren Jones. He's an MP, apparently. Here he is, not very apologetic.
You accept those tickets now in the light of what has happened?
My declarations, you'll see, I don't think I've accepted very much at all. I did take my children to see Taylor Swift, which was more for them than it was for me.
But do you think that all of you now need to think twice about accepting things that perhaps other people would love to do but simply can't afford?
I think everybody has to make consideration about what they can and can't do with the time they have available with their family.
So no.
But it's especially funny when someone from the left says this.
I know. Yeah. It's like, well, have you thought about not being poor? Basically what he's saying. So here is Bridget Phillipson, who is Secretary of State for Education and Minister for Women and Equalities. Oh, what a position, the fact that exists.
I mean, yeah, even the salaries should be considered a donation here.
It is, yes.
It's an Afuera ministry.
Here she is.
I'll be honest, it was a hard one to turn down. I appreciate there was big demand for the tickets. It was a privilege to be there.
Taylor Swift, by the way.
One of my children, was keen to go along. It's hard to say no if you're offered tickets in those circumstances, but it was declared. I've been clear about that, but I do recognise that, I'm in a fortunate position to be able to receive it.
Wait.
Did you hear that, Stelios?
Yeah.
What was that sound?
I actually heard it. It's the child's
It was a bump.
fault.
It was a bump in the road from the sound of a child being thrown under a bus, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's actually a mother that is telling us that it's my children are basically owning me, and anything my children are telling me I'll do.
And I love the way that the eyes drop down at the end. It's the classic sort of tell that she knows that she's done something wrong. Mm-hmm. Can't maintain the act if it's all fine for very long.
Yeah, but the children would just look down on her.
Yes, well, Angela Rayner has also been... It's an unfortunate screenshot, isn't it? She looks very surprised.
No, she looks like that all the time, actually.
It's like a Punch and Judy show. Anyway, The Lord Ali stuff has been in the news quite a lot, and they've been in denial mode. And Mike Graham here of Talk is saying that she was spotted since the election with him 2 weeks ago in the House of Lords, and she denies seeing him in Downing Street or Parliament, and she herself was seen, only 2 weeks ago.
Her declaration must be fun. I've not. Have you looked it up?
I've tried to find it, but it's all I was able to find is a small percentage of it in clothes, but I presume the rest of it is money.
Oh, it probably goes a long way beyond that, doesn't it? Like 2 weeks in Ibiza. 500 grams of cack and I don't know, 2 bottles of Jack Daniels.
Lots of cash and gas.
Yeah.
Also, there's lots of conversations about her story, about her knowledge of all of this, saying, don't forget that Keir Starmer's deputy Angela Rayner wasn't in Durham with him at the pre-planned beer and curries supper party organised by party officials either, until that was exposed as a lie, and that she had been there, as her own diary and Keir Starmer's revealed. So, yes, people are also trying to cover it up, it seems, or at least that's what people are saying. So, Keir Starmer has bravely said that he'll stop accepting clothes as a donation. I imagine he's probably received enough money to buy his own at this point.
The wardrobe is full. Don't send more, right?
Yeah. In all of his homes, he's run out of space for clothes. He's saying he accepts gold bars and positions in NGOs. That's what he's accepting payment in now.
I will throw up a quick note that people do send us donations quite a lot. In fact, I got one. I got one myself here this morning. One of my viewers sent me a book, and we got another lovely viewer. Was it Loon or something? Who sends us chocolates and stuff like that. The problem is we don't get to set tax rates. We don't get to direct government funds. So there probably is quite a quality difference there.
Well, normally the things that we get given tend not to be trying to bias what we're doing. It's just like a thank you, which is very nice of you, by the way. You're all sweethearts secretly. You're very mean in the comments sometimes, but I know you're nice deep down. And sorry, that's really condescending. So anyway, here's a meme that I thought was good. The first meeting of Labour's National Executive Committee after Starmer announced the clothing donation ban, which I just thought was great.
So, but what is actually happening here?
Is it like a strip poker?
That's not actually the Labour National Executive Committee meeting, by the way.
For those who are listening, Josh is showing us a room of naked men having a board meeting.
Maybe it's a strip poker society meeting.
So there has been some backlash within the Labour Party itself. Here's Rachel Maskell saying, I've been sickened by the revelations of donations. It grates against the values of the Labour Party, created to fight for the needs of others, not the self. Meanwhile, pensioners are having their winter fuel payments taken and risking cold. I trust conference votes to change this, because of course the Labour Party conference is going on at the minute, and this is the thing that's in the news more than anything else. And sorry,
was she at a Taylor Swift concert while she was posting this?
I don't know.
Okay.
You'll have to ask her, I'm afraid. Also, Diane Abbott is on a redemption arc here, saying she's basically criticising the general election victory was only possible under Keir's leadership, and I think actually that's a silly thing anyway, because it was only possible because the Tories tanked their own popularity.
Anyone could have won that election.
A child could have led the Labour Party and they would have actually probably done better. She says it's changed it into an organisation whose leaders are in the pockets of millionaires. And that's his own MPs saying that about the Prime Minister. Although Diane Abbott, of course, the left-wing faction, still bitter about Jeremy Corbyn being axed by the more Blairite Keir Starmer. So there's also Harriet Harman, who was former deputy leader at one point of the Labour Party, says that he should stop trying to justify it, because he basically said, yeah, of course I get donations, and what? Which I sort of respected, actually. I had more respect for him than him coming out and issuing a false apology. But it's still bad, because it's still morally questionable, to say the least. So this has had a significant impact, as well as obviously the riots and all the other terrible things that Keir Starmer's been doing. He's now less popular than Rishi Sunak, which I find hilarious, because he's only been in office for a couple of months. He's already less popular than the least popular Prime Minister.
That is genuinely impressive, because
that's like a speed run to failure.
Awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
there's no grace period for him.
Half of voters think Labour has done a poor job so far. Half of all voters, that's kind of hilarious. And 3 in 5 think Labour will lose the next election already. They've only been in office a short time. And apparently, more than half of respondents do not believe Keir Starmer will lead the party into the next election either, which is... We don't even need to criticise them. If we just leave them to do their own thing, it turns out they're so stupid that they will just sabotage themselves, apparently. So I wanted to quickly go over some other avenues of corruption to wrap up. So obviously there are just rewarding people with gifts and monetary donations. We've been over that in detail now. There's also political appointments. So a good example is Zaya Youssef donating £200,000 to Reform, and then he replaced the voting-based favourite Ben Habib as party chairman following this. I wonder how that happened. It's also worth mentioning as well, members of the House of Lords have donated 50 million to parties who then appointed them to the House of Lords. And this is a Politics Home investigation.
How much does it cost? I mean that's all peers. I mean, if I wanted to become a peer, how much would I have to donate?
I don't know. I suppose we can run an experiment, and you can donate lots of money to, I don't know, the Labour Party. Maybe you'll be a lord in no time. But this has also been vindicated by Transparency International. 2 different organisations have had similar figures. They suggested it was slightly more than 50 million. 53.4 million, I believe that reads. And yes, it's also worth mentioning as well that you can be given a lucrative job once you're outside of office. So Nick Clegg, our former Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the Lib Dems back in the day, left Downing Street and got a job for Meta, where he's arguably more powerful than ever and gets significantly more money because he's the president of global affairs, whatever that means. So yes, lucrative jobs, as well as speaking fees. So Tony Blair's a good example for that, known to get upwards of £200,000 per speech. He got given 237,000 in a single speech for telecommunications conferences in 2015. A single conference, sorry. I can't read for some reason. And also, of course, campaign donations, whereby they can be rewarded with lucrative government contracts and favourable treatment in any new legislation. Reminds me of that Premier League thing you were talking about. So I would like to point out to people, in the United States, there was a case where Microsoft was getting hammered by antitrust laws, which are like anti-monopoly laws, right? And all of a sudden they started donating to political parties. And rather than simply stopping targeting them with antitrust laws, they actually invited them in to rewrite them. I'm sorry, I don't believe for a minute any of this stuff is above board. Obviously, corruption is just legalised in a lot of the Western world. It's human nature, of some humans anyway, to be greedy, and I think that is a sort of inevitability when institutions have as much power as they do. You increase the bloat, you increase the capability of individuals to pursue their own selfish, greedy needs, and that is what is happening here. I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're up to, you can follow Dan's series, Brokenomics. This time he's talking about the Witten. He's got lots of guests, definitely worth checking out. And if you want to see all the other stuff we're putting out, you can follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.